Welcome to the Traders Help Desk online video collection. In this video, I'm actually going to go through a trade that I did this morning. Unfortunately, as I was capturing it, I had no video on it for some reason, so I was having microphone issues, so I'm going to have to capture it in hindsight. But what I want to go over actually is my entry point here. At this entry point, you see that the 12-minute has had a long divergence. You also see on the 45-minute that you had diverging volume as it was making these lows. This was also confirmed on the 180, and it was also confirmed on the 720. As you can see on the 720, it pulled right back to the slow moving average on diverging volume. So that indicated to me to look to the 3-minute to see if we went into an uptrend, because every one of these time frames over here were indicating a move to the upside. This is where I zero in on the 3-minute to see if it confirms this movement. Now, as you can see, the price went up, it pulled back to the ATR here, but it did it on increasing selling volume. So this told me I was not interested in that particular entry. Then it pulls back to the slow moving average, and you can see the red volume is diverging. You have a tall volume bar here, and then on the next low it actually makes lower volume. This is also confirmed on our volume divergence indicator. So this entry, I entered a long position using an 8-tick risk. You go up and you get Clipper 1. You then make a magenta peak. Whenever we make the magenta peak, which is a pointed top on the ADX, we're expecting it to pull back to the ATR. It does pull back to the ATR, and you can see that it's pulling back on very, very low volume. So that told me it will go up, and it will probably test this high. Since this is the first test of that high, it should actually exceed it. So then we get to Clipper 2, and I move my stop to Clipper 1. Now you can see that we're throwing divergence here, but this is not at any kind of substantial support or resistance area. In other words, it is not at an ATR, it is not at a slow moving average, so this does not concern me. And as I am looking over here, I can see that the volume is actually increasing to the upside. And I know that the next area of resistance should actually be the slow moving average over on the 45-minute, because you are not at an ATR on the 12-minute, you're not at an ATR on the 45-minute, and because of the 180 telling me that it should pull back to the ATR, I do know that we have room for profits. Okay, so I go ahead and I take Clipper 2, and then it comes within about 3 or 4 ticks of Clipper 3, and it does not touch it, and that's where my next profit target is. So I opt to wait. As you can see, the ATR is moving up, and I had 2 stops in. One is a hard stop, which is Clipper 1. The other one is if it comes down and closes below the ATR, I would then be out of the trade. Well, you can see that we made a magenta peak. It does pull back to the ATR, and then it pops up and it hits Clipper 3, which was my final exit. Now, as you can see, it is at the ATR again, but this time the volume is starting to increase with the red volume bars. So this right now, to me, would not be a new entry point. I really want to stress the fact that I would not have taken this trade if it had not been confirmed on these higher time frames. And again, the 720, you're at the slow moving average. It does so on diverging volume. That tells me it should go upwards. You've had divergence over on the 180. Again, this tells us it should go up to the ATR because it makes the magenta peak. Over on the 45 minute, you can see that you had divergence along these lows, again telling us that it should go up and it should go at least to the ATR, but as it's approaching the ATR, these volume bars are actually higher on the buyer side, not the seller side. So you can see that the volume is actually increasing to the upside, not to the downside. You also see the same scenario over on the 12 minute, where as it is going upwards, you see that the volume is increasing on the buyer side, and you get this small divergence right here on the lows. So this divergence here, and you can see it on the divergence indicator as well, was saying yes, it's pulled back to the slow moving average on the 3 minute. It's giving me a divergence to the long side, and more likely than not it would break this ATR because you have 4 higher time frames that are telling you that this market will go up. Because I waited for this particular setup, I was able to take 96 ticks out of this market. But it does take patience to wait for that particular setup.